Hello, I am Peter Okwacha. Welcome to Focus on Africa. Our top stories. 11 people are reported to have been killed in a car bomb attack in Somalia's capital, Mogadishu. It's the latest in a wave of explosions blamed on the Islamist militant group Al-Shabaab.
As a mother, it is shocking for me, and I request those behind the explosions to stop. We are crying every day over dead bodies, and it is very hard for us to talk about.
Could Liberian families in the US lose their right to live there? A court will decide in just a few hours' time. We visit the village of Mankosi in South Africa that built its own Wi-Fi network. Also on the program, covered up and on the cover. The Somali models making history in their hijabs. And in sports, Gabon are on the lookout for a new coach after parting ways with Daniel Cousin. Thanks for joining us here on Focus on Africa from BBC World News. There has been a huge explosion in the Somali capital, Mogadishu. Ambulance workers say at least 11 people were killed and 16 injured when the car bomb went off. It's the latest in a string of attacks in Mogadishu in recent weeks. There's also been an increase in targeted assassinations, all blamed on the Islamist group Al-Shabaab. BBC Somali's Mohamed Harare reports.
This is the fourth explosion in the last 5 days in the capital. Once again, the target is a busy restaurants, shops and hotels along this Makkah al-Mukarramah, one of the capital's protected and the scene of hit regular attacks. When bomb detonated this morning, the area was filled with diners and travelers. And as with most explosions, the majority of the casualties is civilian.
As a mother, it is shocking for me, and I request those behind the explosions to stop. We are crying every day over dead bodies, and it is very hard for us to talk about.
In recent weeks, large-scale attacks and assassinations in Mogidishu by Al-Shabaab has significantly increased. On Wednesday and Tuesday, 2 people were assassinated when bombs were planted in their vehicles. This is now Al-Shabaab preferred mode of assassinations. On Saturday, there was a suicide car bomb attack to a ministry building, and before militants stormed the building, at least 11 people dead, including the Deputy Labour Minister, Sakhar Ibrahim Abdallah. In address to the Parliament, President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo has called for unity amid heightened security concerns.
We must be united in eliminating the terrorists who have been shedding the blood of the innocent. As I promised before, we are committed to securing the country and giving the security sector the first priority.
Despite the president's reassurances, some of the troops that meant to be leading the war against Al-Shabaab deserting the bases in central and southern regions. The soldiers say they have abandoned their garrisons because their salaries have not been paid for months, a claim that the government disputes. Mohamed Harare, BBC, London.
Well, joining me for more on this story is Abdul Rashid Said. He's a Somali diplomat. Thanks a lot for talking to us. How is Al-Shabaab still able to carry out these attacks with this kind of frequency, given the fact that AMISOM, the UN, the Americans tell us that they have them on the run?
Yes, this is a very tragic thing. First of all, I have to call the international community to support the Somali government. And that's what they have done when the Prime Minister, His Excellency Hassan Al Khaire, met them this week. And also the President, as just has reported, His Excellency President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo, also called all Somalis to support their soldiers and their government in order to prevent such kind of terrorist attacks. This is a threat not to Somalia alone, but all Africa and international community. And of course, there is a weakness of the Somali army and infiltration was happening. Somalia was abandoned many years by international community. This is the result of nearly 25 years of neglection of international community to support Somali government. One thing is Somalia is still under the international embargo. They cannot support their armies or security forces to defend.
But, you know, there are international troops on the ground. AMISOM troops are there. The UN is carrying out drone attacks on al-Shabaab bases in the country. Why does al-Shabaab now seem to be concentrating their attacks on Mogadishu?
Mogadishu is the capital and the symbol of the Somali state. And that's why they wanted these terrorists to show the world that they are still existing, although they have been defeated in many areas in the country. Plus, the other thing is as I just said, the Somali government needs the United Nations. We went there to lift the army embargo so we can have our own forces to defend. Somalia
but there
used
is a
to
Somali
be...
army. We've just heard that they've not been paid and they're abandoning their bases. I mean, shouldn't the Somali government be concentrating on paying their salaries to keep them motivated?
This matter of the salaries is still under question mark because the Somali armies were paid, but it's true also there are also forces linked with the Somali army who were not paid, and the government is dealing with that already. They have started to pay. But the important thing is also we want to know is these terrorists are hiding in Mogadishu with the population. The government, if the population, for example, of Mogadishu, nearly 2.5 million residents in Mogadishu, if they cannot work with the security force, if they cannot report, these people will get a chance to infiltrate and to attack. And who is going to be destroyed, or the main destruction?
The Somali
not the Somali people, but also the civilians in Mogadishu. Therefore, we have called the international community to support the Somali government, and we hope to win in the next coming years.
Thank you very much for being here on Focus in Africa. Thank you very much. Thank you. Let's take a quick look now at other stories making the headlines across Africa and the rest of the world. The United States has ordered all its personnel to leave the Comoros Islands after gunfire was heard in the capital, Moroni, on Thursday. Earlier, an opposition leader who was defeated in Sunday's presidential elections was arrested. Retired Colonel Soilihi Mohammed and other opposition leaders have refused to accept the victory of President Azali Assoumani, saying the vote was rigged. Malta's armed forces have taken control of a tanker that was allegedly seized by migrants off the Libyan coast on Wednesday. The tanker has docked in the Maltese capital, Valletta. The migrants had been rescued by the ship or reportedly hijacked it after being told it would be returned to Libya. And former Gambian President Yahya Jammeh orchestrated the embezzlement of nearly $1 billion of public funds, according to a report by the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project. The team of investigative reporters say they reviewed thousands of documents from the course of his 22-year rule, which ended in 2017. Mr. Jammeh, currently in exile in Equatorial Guinea, has not responded to the allegations. A survey in the DR Congo suggests a quarter of people in the cities worst affected by the current Ebola outbreak, Beni and Butembo, do not believe the virus exists. Health workers say many people refuse vaccines, resist treatments, and conceal symptoms due to lack of trust in public authorities. The historic ties between Liberia and America are inescapable. Just look at the flags. It's where freed slaves in America were sent to settle before eventually establishing the free and independent Republic of Liberia. But hundreds of years on, the future of many Liberians living in the U.S. hangs in the balance as the Trump administration weighs whether to extend, once again, their deportation protection. Thousands of Liberians who fled to the country following the Civil War in 1991 have relied on two measures known as temporary protected status and deferred enforced departure offered to people escaping armed conflict, natural disasters, or public health crisis. But last year, President Trump announced a final 12-month extension of protections to allow them time to prepare to leave the United States. It's the president's discretion, or it's at his discretion, and 4,000 Liberians could be affected as the extension expires this Sunday. Well, Alfreda Daniels joins us now. She's a spokesperson for the Black Immigrant Collective. That's a group that highlights the impact of immigration policy and law enforcement on Black immigrants. Thank you very much for joining us. What are these people required to do to ensure they stay back in the States?
There are not many options right now. When Trump actually ended DED 12 months ago, he did give a little bit of window that if people get married, they can change their status. But we're talking about, at the time, over 5,000 people. So right now we have about 4,500 people that still need a pathway to citizenship.
But some of these people have been in the States for 25 years. Why haven't they regulated their stay in this time?
Correct. So in the past, people that are currently on DED was once on TPS, and the number was more than 5,000. Those who were on TPS were able to change their status through marriage. During the Bush administration, that changed to DED, an executive order. The thing with DED is there is no direct pathway to citizenship. So there was no way for them to change their status, even if they wanted to, because there was no direct pathway to citizenship.
Well, 5 previous presidents have given a reprieve in this particular case. The judgment is just a few hours away. Do you think they will be able to get a reprieve?
From the president, from what we're seeing right now, no. He made it clear that in 2018 it was terminated and that people had 12 months to leave. However, currently we are working on a lawsuit which is going to be in hearing by 3 p.m. my time in Boston, Massachusetts. And if we get an injunction from that lawsuit, then people on DED can actually stay until the suit is over. And we also have a bill that is currently going through the House right now, the Dream and Promise Act, which is the HR 6 bill that includes DED and TPS. If passed, then it's going to create pathway to citizenship for folks that are on DED.
Okay, Alfreda
TPS.
Daniels with the Black Immigrant Collective in the United States of America. Thank you very much for being on Focus on Africa. This is Focus on Africa from BBC World News with me, Peter Okwoche. Still to come, Mimi with the sports, as South Africa will be represented at the all-new women-only W Series Championships. I'm Peter Okwoche. The top stories this hour. 11 people have been killed and 16 injured in a car explosion in the Somali capital, Mogadishu. It's the latest in a series of attacks in recent weeks blamed on the Islamist group Al-Shabaab. And the future of many Liberians living in the U.S. hangs in the balance as the Trump administration weighs whether to extend once again their deportation protection. Now, with data costs in South Africa amongst the highest on the continent, how can poor rural communities be expected to get online and join the fourth industrial revolution? Well, the village of Mankosi has been at the forefront of an experiment to bridge the internet gap and make all around 15 times cheaper a reality. The BBC's Voldo Karelsa visited the village to find out how they achieved this feat.
The middle of nowhere has been keeping a secret, and it's a secret that could change the face of communications in Africa. Mankosi is home to over 6,000 people. Until late last year, there was no electricity here. Running water is still a luxury. But they have a cheap and stable Wi-Fi network. They built and registered their own internet service provider.
Mom, I'm wondering if I could buy a voucher.
Yeah, you can.
Can
you
I?
can buy a voucher.
Really? How much does it cost?
25 rands.
25?
Only 25 rands.
Okay.
It lasts a whole month.
A whole month? So did you know what Wi-Fi was before it came here?
No, we didn't know. We didn't know anything about Wi-Fi.
And now
It is when it came and connected. Then we see what put us to get better life. And at school, people doing their homeworks, everything. Even if when I didn't got TV, I can see news.
So why is Mankosi Wi-Fi so cheap? 7 years ago, researchers from the University of the Western Cape, with the help of the community, built a mesh network here. A cheap, low-energy system using scattered node devices rather than a central mast that's used by traditional telecoms networks. The name of it is Zenzeleni. It means do-it-yourself. And 33-year-old Zuko Chichi is the embodiment of that slogan.
Looks like there's a problem with our connection here.
Previously unemployed and unskilled, he's now the resident technician.
When this dream came to our village, I thought it's impossible, We can't make a network because we never started a network. It's a high mountain to climb, so it won't be real. As the time goes, I saw, no, this is going to be real. That's why I put in my effort, trying to learn everything according technically. So yeah, now my dream came true now.
But one of the biggest barriers is access to a device to get online.
We are searching for cause of globalizations.
At this local school, students make use of smartphones.
The internet has helped us here, and we've been able to see how we can use it for research. And I think it's important for our village's development.
Community networks like this one could be a way to connect Africa to the global village. Driven by the innovation and energy of the youth, the people of Mankosi say this is just the start for Zenzeleni. Voldi Karlster, BBC News, Mankosi.
Let's talk about fashion now, and I admit it's something that I know very little about. The current issue of the Arabian version of Vogue magazine is an image of strength and beauty. And for the first time, 3 Somali women models are on the cover of Vogue Arabia this month. And news of it is all over Twitter, shining a spotlight on a woman's right to choose. Halima Aden, Amina Adan, and Ikram Abdi Omar spoke to the publication on the issue of modesty. Well, I'm delighted to say that we're now joined by Ikram. What's the reaction been like?
It's been splendid. I mean, a lot of messages have been sent to me about spreading awareness about the headscarf and how you can be modest and fashionable at the same time. A lot of love and support from everyone.
Because, I mean, on the cover, all 3 of you were wearing the headscarf.
Yes.
What message were you trying to give people?
I just wanted to give people the message that you can wear the headscarf. It's beautiful, it is stunning, you can be fashionable. It's like another piece of fabric that you can match with your clothing. And yeah, that was the message.
It also symbolises modesty, you know, but some critics would say, well, you know, if you're trying to symbolize modesty, then maybe you shouldn't be on a catwalk, or maybe you shouldn't be in the modeling industry, because it's not exactly modest, is it?
It's modest when you're fully covered up, so the surroundings doesn't really have an impact on what you're doing. So if you're covered up and that's what you're wearing, the headscarf and like full body coverage, then that's fine, that's your choice. And it could be someone else's choice to not wear it. And you can be modest in all aspects of life.
You know, and I've been talking to some of my younger colleagues of Somali origin, and they've been really, really excited, and they wanted to meet you. What message are you trying to send to younger girls back home?
I just want them to keep going and pushing through, and I just want to let them know that the headscarf doesn't limit you from doing anything in life or achieving your dreams. And you can get into different fields, and you shouldn't worry, and just go for it. And you were also on the catwalk at London Fashion Week for the first time last week. Yes, what's life like for a professional model of Somali origin? It's completely different. When I got into the industry, I was shocked that they were welcoming me and with open arms, and I felt like they had something to use and get creative with, and they can piece it with their clothing.
And is there some, I mean, obviously with the headscarf and all that, you know, but they're learning from you. I mean, you're not only taking from them, but they're taking from you as well.
Yes, so I would bring in my headscarves to sets and I would tell them what colours would match with certain clothings and how I do the styles. They'll give me a mirror and I'll show them like 5 different headscarf styles, like turbans and all the way around. It was amazing.
Absolutely. I mean, we're really proud to see you on the cover of Vogue Arabia.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming on.
Thank
Ikram
you.
there. Thanks. Now it's time for sports. Mimi,
Indeed,
you look
Peter.
good.
Oh, thank you very much. So do you. It's a new beginning for football in Gabon. The country's sports minister, Alain Billiet-Binzé, has started the process of finding a new national team coach. It comes as the tenure of the current one, Daniel Cousin, has ended. That's after he failed to lead the team to the Africa Cup of Nations finals this summer. The 42-year-old formally signed a contract earlier in March, despite being confirmed as the coach last September. Their 1-1 draw to Burundi on Saturday ended Gabon's hope of qualifying for the tournament in Egypt. In addition, the national team has been dissolved, with the sports ministry saying they would rebuild the squad. The 2019 African Super Cup is taking place for the first time outside the continent. The Qatari capital of Doha will be the host this year. It will see the 2018 Champions League winners Esperance of Tunisia take on the Confederation Cup champions Raja Casablanca of Morocco on Friday. Now, Qatar is set to hold the 2022 World Cup, and the match is a good opportunity to test things ahead of the tournament.
Our hosting of these sporting events, such as the Super Cup, will be on Friday, and then it's the Tunisian Super Cup. This is an opportunity for us to train our staff in terms of the organisational matters of these sporting events hosted by Qatar. And it's a way to test our sports facilities.
To women in motorsport, where the final lineup is now complete for the inaugural W Series Championship. History will be made when 18 women from across 13 countries, one of which will be South Africa's Tasman Pepper, will be taking part in the first ever all single-seater racing series. After 6 races, someone will be crowned winner. It all begins in the spring as they compete across Europe for a total prize of $1.5 million, with a competition director looking out for certain qualities in the drivers.
There are a lot of good racing drivers and with a load of different sort of characters amongst them. But basically we're looking for drivers who understand how a race car works. We're looking for a competitive edge, a desire to win, and just grouping all of that together, see what we end up with.
To tennis, where South Africa's Kevin Anderson will face Roger Federer in the quarterfinal of the Miami Open later today. Federer booked his spot against Anderson on Wednesday. Anderson had already secured a place the day before. Both men are no strangers to each other, with Federer saying what a difficult opponent the 32-year-old is.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a bit tricky, you know. He's got a great serve, so you go back to big serve mentality to try to hold your own service games first before thinking about how to break Kevin. Had a tough one against him at Wimbledon when I lost. Was able to come back and play a good match against him in London when I really had to in that round robin match. But you know, I think I'm feeling really good. Today's match I can be really happy with, so I hope that's going to give me some confidence for tomorrow.
It's always about confidence, and that's all the sport, Peter.
It's been a good day. We've had a supermodel and a super sports newscaster.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay. Just before we go, don't forget that you can get in touch with some of the team on Twitter. I'm at Okwoche. But from me, Peter Okwoche, and the rest of the Focus on Africa team, thanks for watching the program. See you soon.